We're just starting that, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're started.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending this virtual meeting of the Hampshire Code of Conduct panel. This meeting is being webcast on YouTube via the County Council website. All decisions at today's meeting will be reached through a vote. I will call for the vote at the appropriate time under each item, with the vote and outcome read audibly by the Democratic Support Officer. I will begin by reading the names of members on the committee so that they can confirm their attendance for the public record. Members, please unmute and confirm your attendance when your name is called, so that we can ensure that you are heard. I'll start off being the chairman of the panel, and my name is Mark Kempji. Councillor Keith Evans.
He's not in attendance, Chairman.
Councillor Adam Carew.
Yes, Chairman, I'm here, present.
Good afternoon, Adam. Councillor Peter Chegwin.
Is not in attendance, Chairman.
Councillor Andrew Gibson.
Yeah, I'm definitely here.
Councillor Keith House.
I was here when I last looked at the screen.
Thank you, Councillor House. Councillor Gavin James.
Present, Chairman.
Welcome, Councillor James. Councillor Peter Latham.
Well, we've received apologies, Chairman.
Councillor Tom Thacker.
Not in attendance, Chairman.
Councillor Vaughan.
Present, Chairman.
And Councillor Stallard.
Yes, Chairman, I'm here.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stallard, for attending as substitute. The first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. And Kevin, we have apologies for absence from Councillor Latham, I understand.
That's correct, Chairman.
And no other apologies, is that also correct?
Not that I'm aware of, Chairman.
Thank you. Moving on to declarations of interest. Members, if you have any declarations of interest, please give them now or when we come to the appropriate or relevant item. Thank you. And now move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of October. And if I may, I'll go through page by page on your agenda meeting pack, page 3 and page 4 and page 5. Members, have you any alterations to suggest on accuracy to those minutes? No? Well, if not, may I ask for those minutes to be approved?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you very much indeed. Item 4 on the agenda is Chairman's announcements. I have no announcements. 5 is deputations. We have no deputations. And item 6 is the approval of absence of an elected member of the County Council under Section 85 of the Local Government Act in 1972, Gender Papers 7 to 10. And Barbara, I'm going to ask you as monitoring officer to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chairman, and good afternoon, members. Members, there's just this one report on the agenda. It's an approval of absence request for Councillor Dibbs for a period of 6 months from today for health reasons. Members, I think the report speaks for itself. As you're aware, there is a general dispensation to all members of the Council granted in May this year, expiring at the end of December this year, for members who might be isolating or social distancing, shielding, or resulted illness as a consequence of COVID that dispensation expires at the end of December. Councillor Dibbs' request for dispensation is not associated with COVID. It's for personal health reasons, and the dispensation is requested from this committee. This committee has the power under the Constitution to grant that delegation should it see fit. Chairman, I don't intend to say anything further in introduction of the report, unless you wish me to.
No, thank you very much indeed. I'd like just to ask members if they have any questions or points they want to raise on that. Members, do you have any questions or points to raise on that? Councillor Gibson.
Yeah, I just, I mean, I'm finding, I'm on the list of most at risk. So I get letters from the government, from Hampshire, from my surgery and wherever. But it hasn't stopped me from working. And, you know, we were on a conference call this morning, Mark, for 3 hours, and I'm doing that every day. So, I mean, I'm actually going out, socially distancing and doing my work. So going back to the dispensation that we have at the moment through the COVID period, it seems to be that we're at home, but we're all working on Zoom and Teams. And, you know, I've had this, I mean, I have about 10 or 15 Zoom calls with different parishes each month. So I don't see that I'm doing any less work now. And I don't know why we needed the disposition for the 6 months. Going forward, I don't know Mr. Dibbs, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't agree. I'm just saying that with all of these facilities that we have, the technology that we have, and in the current environment, do you actually need to have these dispensations?
Well, I hear what you say. It's not for me to inquire into the circumstances of the ill health. I don't know if the monitoring officer wants to comment on what you just said, Councillor Gibson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. The reason for Councillor Dibbs' request is not a result of COVID or anything to do with COVID. It's for quite separate health reasons. I am aware of the detail, but the detail of that would prevent Councillor Dibbs from joining meetings remotely as well as physical meetings.
I think we obviously thoroughly accept that. Members, any other points you'd like to raise? In which case...
Chairman, Councillor Stallard wishes to come in. Please.
I'm so sorry, Councillor Stallard.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think in part, Barbara Beardwell has already answered my question. Whilst I understand it is not appropriate to disclose any details about the nature of the condition, could you advise whether or not it is a precautionary measure or whether it is because of something that is already existing?
I think it's something that's already existing, actually, Councillor Stallard, as far as I'm aware.
Okay, thank you.
Members, I'm going to ask you to look at the recommendation in a moment. After we take the recommendation, just to alert you to the fact, Councillor House has made a suggestion, nothing to do with the Councillor Dibbs situation, but just an idea which I think is sensible for the committee to explore. So I'm going to turn next to the recommendation, and then if you'd like to just bear with us, we'll look at an idea produced by Councillor House, and just to confirm that we've had a look at it, and we'd like to respond to his idea, if that's all right with all parties. And it's in the generality, it isn't by no means anything to do with the recommendation in front of us, which is that the Conduct Advisory Panel approve a period of absence pursuant to Section 85 Local Government Act for a period of 6 months from 20th November for Councillor Dibbs for health reasons. And I'm now going to ask Democratic Services to supervise the vote on that recommendation.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I ask members, if any members wish to abstain from this vote, please could they indicate by raising their hands and speaking. Okay, I note there's no abstentions. Members, could I ask anyone who's against the recommendations to indicate? Okay, I note there's no one against. Members, can I take it that you're all in that case for the recommendations?
Agreed.
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 Okay, Chairman, all members are in favour.
Thank you, members. Councillor House, do you want me to introduce it, or would you like to? You can probably do it better than I can.
You've got the right flow at the moment, Chairman, so I suggest you keep going.
All right. Well, Councillor Heath, Councillor House, always keen to assist the appropriate and efficient running of the council, wrote actually a very sensible email, if I may suggest, to say, well, basically, why don't we continue with, well, actually, I'll just read what he says, because it wasn't actually that long. He said, I wondered when we looked at this, and that's the recommendation we've just dealt with, whether it might be appropriate for the council to extend the COVID-19 exemption to the 31st of March. We know that the second wave is going to take us into next year, and all sorts of consequences follow from that. So basically, as I said, it was a sensible suggestion, is why don't we continue the blanket dispensation to the end of March? And it was really as simple as that. And I floated it across the monitoring officer, who obviously is the bearer of the Constitution as well. And Barbara, would you just like to comment on what Councillor House suggested?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I think my view, if the Conduct Advisory Panel was minded to go with the suggestion that we could work up a resolution, I think that because the dispensation would affect all members of the council, my view would be to take a report to council itself at its meeting the week after next. I'm just wondering though, and I think Councillor Gibson made the point, probably the same point that I'm about to make earlier today, is actually whether an extension is needed, in that the dispensation that we have at the moment, we worked up in early May this year, when I think things are very new. We just about then got the ability to hold remote meetings. We didn't know how they'd work out. We certainly didn't know that we'd be able to roll it out as we have done, I think with a great deal of success across the whole meeting cycle of the County Council. And members, you'll recollect that back in May last year, well, this year actually, we had a minimum, in effect, quorum meeting of full council, because we weren't sure how things were going to work out. But since then, with a full schedule of remote meetings, I think my personal view, obviously it's a matter for members, it makes it more difficult to make an argument for a general dispensation. There may of course be instances of individual illness due to COVID, but even in such cases, a member would need to be absent for a full 6 months from the date of his last meeting to fall foul of the 6-month rule. And so, I mean, with a meeting in next month, that takes us, way well into, if a member attended that, or had attended something between the elections in May, counting back for 6 months, even if it's a remote meeting, well, it probably would be a remote meeting, there wouldn't be an instance of falling foul of the 6-month rule. So I think that would be the point I'd make, Chairman. Yeah,
thank you. Councillor House, I think I'm right in saying that this, our resolution, incidentally, welcome to Councillor Thacker, who's just been able to join us.
I apologise, Chairman. I had a sudden phone call that interrupted my processes. Thanks.
Councillor Thacker, we have dealt with the recommendation in front of us, and what we're doing at the moment, we're just discussing a point and idea put forward by Councillor House, which is basically, why don't we extend the blanket dispensation to the end of March, which makes sense. I guess it's the end of the municipal year. It was going to end at the end of December anyway. And the monitoring officer has just been responding, saying, well, look, we can all work remotely. We've got elections in May, and basically we should be covered until then. I think that's more or less the point. I was just saying to Councillor House that this will be reported, Barbara, I think I'm right in saying, to full council, won't it? The recommendations we've made today.
The recommendation in respect of Councillor Dibbs, that's complete today.
Yes.
This panel has the power under the Constitution to grant the dispensation. It would have the same power for a general dispensation, but my view would be that that would be something for this panel to recommend, should it see fit, and that's what this panel has got to decide, to full council. I think that would be something for the full council because it affects all members, but I think the question now is whether members would wish to support a resolution of that manner. A recommendation to full council, that is.
What I was actually asking specifically is, will the recommendation about Councillor Dibbs be reported to full council in December?
It could be as a part 2 item should this panel see fit. It doesn't need to be though, and I wasn't intending to report it because it's a single isolated matter. Yeah.
All right, well, Councillor House, what do you feel about this now, having listened to the monitoring officer?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I don't feel desperately strongly about this point. The issue that really struck me was that, and this isn't about remote meetings because we're now totally used to remote meetings, and Andrew Gibson makes the exact right point there. We've got the system working, and I think just about every council in the country is now successfully running Teams or Zoom or various other combinations of meeting. What we do have, however, is two things that I think are of note. The first, and this cropped up in a conversation in another meeting, the first is that there are fewer meetings. There are still meetings being cancelled where essential business is not necessary. And that does mean that for some councillors, their required attendance at meetings is very low in any case. So being absent at just one meeting can, on occasions, end up being with not meeting the 6-month rule. We have no idea what's going to happen over the next 3 months. I'm an optimist by nature. I've got to be, I'm a liberal. And as an optimist, I'd like to think that we're going to come through this as a country pretty well. We're going to see the virus drop away as we get through the winter, and we're going to see vaccination coming in and being start to be administered. But we just don't know quite what the implication will be. If we were to see, this is clearly a hypothetical, and I appreciate that. If we were to see a colleague who, for perfectly reasonable reasons, hadn't been able to be at a meeting for a period of time, and then is struck down with a pretty debilitating dose of COVID, then they could well end up accidentally being disqualified. And I just think that would be unfortunate in the wider scheme of things. It's not a big deal. We're clearly at the rump end of this council now, with all due respect to all of us. And we were already at the point where the 6-month rule would have clicked in if we had by-elections. Clearly, we don't have by-elections at the moment, so there's no electoral issue here. It's just a question of civility to people in what could still be a difficult set of circumstances over the coming months. And I just thought that it was a reasonable thing to do, but I'm in the hands of colleagues.
Does anyone else feel strongly about this or would like to comment about it? Councillor Carew, have you any thoughts on this, for instance?
Just, Chairman, to say that I'm happy to second Councillor House, just so we can put it to a vote.
I think I'm not. I have a slight reservation, if I may say, about putting it to a vote because it doesn't appear on today's agenda, and I tend to think that to suggest a course of action, it might be appropriate to report this. I think I don't see why it shouldn't be reported to full council. I mean, the proceedings of what's going on at the moment is fully available to the public anyway. And I think I'd like to suggest it is reported to full council under Part 2 agenda. And then if any member wishes to raise the issue then at full council, I think that would be an appropriate way to do it. And the reason for that is, of course, although we can make a recommendation, this dispensation affects all members of the county council, and I feel it would sort of dignify the whole process if we offered the opportunity to comment on this to everyone. And I know that may sound a bit evasive, but I am slightly concerned that this is not on the formal agenda today, and it would be better, I think, to air it in terms of public interests at full council, should that be thought appropriate. I don't know, Councillor House, whether you would suggest that way forward. Agree with that way forward.
Subject to any process guidance from Barbara Beardwell. I think the point is that it's Part 2. It's not, well. Let's suggest we listen to Barbara.
Thank you, members. Just the answer to the point Councillor House said, mentioned in regard to individual illnesses. We do run, we have a system which generates when members are within a couple of months of potentially falling foul of the 6-month rule, and if any member was about to fall foul and because of COVID or then it would be possible to convene a meeting of the Conduct Advisory Panel to deal with any such instance. So I'm not aware that anyone's actually, Kevin might be able to help here. Any member, there's no one on my red list that's in any way near in danger of breaching the rule, and it is something that we keep an eye on. So any instances could be dealt with that in the future. I think if a matter was going to go to full council, I think that that we can work on a resolution for this panel to make to full council. Then it would need to go in as a Part 1 item, I think, for governance reasons. So it's really a question of whether I think, excuse me, members would be happy to have the possibility in any individual case of coming back as a panel to consider a dispensation in respect of anybody who's individually prevented falling foul of the rules through COVID, rather than take a general dispensation to full council.
Yeah.
I don't think any members in danger at the moment. I've not got any.
No.
I've gotten any alerts. So Kevin, are you aware of anything there?
I can confirm that there's no one we're aware of who's approaching a 6-month absence at the moment, Barbara. I think we've got a system that highlights to us if a member hasn't attended a meeting for 4 months, and there's no one appearing on that list at the moment. In fact, actually, with remote meetings, attendance has been very high at full council meetings, for instance.
Okay, well, my own view is that I don't think there's sufficient weight of argument, given that we're right at the end of the council's life now, and that it would only govern the period between the 1st of January and the end of March. I mean, I think it's a bit of a sledgehammer to crack a nut, to be honest. It may be on the wider issue of whether we should have a dispensation, permanently like this. I think I would be against that, because clearly we've got to protect against, members not pulling their weight. And I think ill health to prevent someone attending for 6 months is very rare. And the advantages of having a general dispensation, I think, do not convince me that we should lose the general protection of making sure that the public have confidence in that people elected will fulfil their duties. So for that reason, I don't think I'd be in favour of a dispensation for all time. So it is really just for this 3-month period. And I'm just not, although it's a good idea, I'm just not convinced that it's worth the candles, to be honest. For a new administration coming in next May, they may choose to do things differently. And it's something we could certainly draw to the attention of the new administration. But I think that's the way I feel about it. But if the panel wishes to overrule my thought, then that's perfectly acceptable to me as well.
I think Councillor House wishes to come in.
I think he's muted.
You're on mute.
Oh, Councillor House, you're on mute.
So I am. Yes, no, thank you, Chairman. I don't feel strongly about this. It was raised with me, so I thought I'd raise it here because this was the appropriate point to raise it. Clearly, I would totally oppose a general dispensation as a matter of routine because that subverts the democratic process. And if a councillor is not able to do the job, they shouldn't be continuing as a councillor. Often we've had in the past, and we've had two in the last few years, where a councillor has temporarily been seriously unwell and therefore has required a dispensation. We also had an issue at one point around attendance where there was an issue where someone almost fell off by accident, and that was sorted out, and we argued the case on that one. That was the right way of doing it. And my thinking was just that we were in a pretty unusual situation with COVID at the moment. We don't quite know where it's going, but I don't mind either way.
Well, thank you for that and your tolerance, as always, in all matters. It's very much appreciated. Members, I think we'll leave it there then, unless anyone feels hugely strongly about it. It seems that we have pretty well. We won't need to use it again, it seems to me, for this administration. So, as I say, fresh eyes and fresh views, and I certainly do not hope fresh pandemics, because I hope this will be the last in my lifetime. I never say never. We may need to look at this again going forward, but I sincerely hope not. Members, I think that's all I've got to say to you from my point of view. So I think pretty well that concludes the meeting. So look, thank you very much indeed for your attendance. A short meeting, but it's very much appreciated. And may I wish you a very pleasant weekend, and see you all soon, I hope, very much.